Support for this show comes from Lead Quizzes. Lead Quizzes helps you easily set up high-converting quizzes to capture and qualify leads for your business. Visit leadquizzes.com/podcast to get a 14-day free trial today.
We had this one moment where we couldn't afford the little salaries we were paying ourselves. So the decision was made that we needed to lose someone for a period of time, like one of the founders. Because, and it's like, product can't stop. Oh, we'll have to pause marketing. So I was actually going to be leaving the company.
From Lead Quizzes, it's Journey to Seven Figures, a show about entrepreneurs and the stories behind how they grew their business to seven figures and beyond. We cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the lessons they learned along the way. So welcome back to Journey to Seven Figures. Today I'm interviewing Ali Gardner, co-founder of Unbounce. Unbounce is a conversion platform for marketers. They help marketers and agencies to create landing pages, pop-ups, and sticky bars without having to code. They started in 2009 and have grown to 14,000 customers, 165 team members, and 17 million in ARR. Ali was rated as the number one speaker at over 75% of his speaking engagements, so I know this is going to be an extremely valuable episode. Very excited to interview him today and learn from his journey. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Jeremy.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to jump into this. So why don't we take it back to 2009? What gave you guys the ideas to come up with Unbounce?
We have 6 co-founders, which is kind of interesting. But our CEO, Rick, all of the founders have worked on and off different places over the last the 10 years prior to that. We'd all worked either in marketing or, in Carl, our CTO's case, on the other side, like where marketing's asking, can you do this stuff for me? And there was this universal pain. Nobody could get landing pages made because you had to rely on tech. And our CTO would be like, well, I've got 2 months of product about to be built and I do not care about landing pages for marketing. So we did a little bit of validation with some Facebook ads and just talking to marketers, and everybody had the problem. So it's a nice double-edged it empowers marketers and it allows tech to actually focus on product, which is what they should be doing.
Awesome. Yeah. So I actually remember this, back when we had an agency, we did a big book campaign. So for a guy named Peter Diamandis, we helped him sell about 18,000 books through this funnel sequence, but this was pre Unbounce or any of those things. So we had to literally design and hand code every single page. We had to make the mobile version of it. It was just atrocious.
Yeah.
So there was really this huge need in the market for what you guys ended up creating.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys decide to come up with this. What were the first steps of getting it going?
First step was a ton of us were kind of hanging out, about 12 of us, different disciplines. We're talking about the idea, who wants to be involved. There were 2 ideas. We picked the right one. And it kind of whittled down to 6 of us. 3 of us didn't have a job currently. We were between jobs, and 3 had a small agency. We just decided, let's pack all that in, start this. And, it's just one of those cross your fingers and drive the car off the edge of the cliff kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys have 6 people, and are you just starting this just straight as a product company? And so you guys are just investing your own time and money and resources until this gets up and going and you launch it, or how did that work?
Yeah, we had a tiny bit of friends and family money, like $50K Canadian, which is, that'll buy 3 ads on Facebook. And 3 of us needed a little bit of salary and 3 didn't. So they earned sweat equity as we were kind of getting paid at the start. But yeah, it was a big struggle at the beginning because we really did not have a lot of money, and so we could see our runway. We could visualize it wasn't very far off, when we ran out of money. So scary, but awesome.
Awesome. So I think I read you guys had 6 months between when you started and when you actually launched.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, awesome. And so you were in charge of marketing. So what were you doing in the background while they were building out this product?
Great question, because a lot of companies seem to focus on, at least back then, you make a product and then you try and do something to market it. But I started the blog in the first week of the company and just started writing. And we needed some kind of thing for lead gen to get some leads because I wanted to be able to email an audience when we actually launched the product. So the first step of that was creating an ebook. So there was something to give away. We put up a tiny website. It was a homepage, an about us, and a blog. That was it. Homepage, value prop, and then blog, lots of content. And it was interesting because when you're getting started, there's a million things to do, right? So our CTO, Carl, in the back channel complains to Rick, our CEO, like, why is Ollie going to write an ebook? That's going to take weeks. We've got other things to be doing. So I'm really competitive. So I ran a brainstorm 2 hours, went home, pulled an all-nighter, wrote an ebook, 101 landing page optimization tips in an evening, like 24 hours, came back, boom, there it is. So that challenge was helpful to me, but it's also a signal that it doesn't have to take that long. You can do things really quickly if you need to.
That's cool. So that was one of the first like staples of your marketing, was like a really solid lead magnet. So that ebook was pretty effective for you guys.
Yeah, we were small, obviously we're new, right? But I think we had about 1,200 leads by the time, we got around our beta.
Okay.
So at least it was something. Yeah.
Yeah. So a good start, but not even necessarily like a huge list that you guys were launching with.
No, a lot of the larger awareness stuff kind of came after that. And honestly, I mean, I became a marketer when we started the company. So I was just making shit up as I went along.
There you go. So you guys came out with this ebook. You started writing a bunch of articles. I read somewhere that you wrote like hundreds of articles.
300 just about landing pages.
300.
Yeah.
And was that before you actually launched?
No, that was a couple of years, probably the first 4 years or something. And I took a break from writing for a bit, but a lot though.
Okay.
There were some things I did to speed up the production. This was the days of the infographic when it was like a new thing and it was super popular. And because of what we talked about in the blog, conversion, lots of data, we'd have a lot of companies out there, all these infographic production companies, they would send us all of the infographics they were making for other companies and say, hey, do you want to put this on your blog? I'm like, yeah, because for me, I'm writing 3 posts a week. So then I'm like, okay, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are infographic post days. So we take someone else's content, I wrap a story around it by reading what's in it and creating something actually more valuable than the infographic itself. So that was kind of cheap and easy ways of getting more content that was very shareable at the time, because infographics aren't such a big deal anymore.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar to Rand Fishkin. Like he started out doing like 5 articles a week, like on his spare time. So how did you guys start generating like awareness of your content so you could build this 1,200 person email list?
For that, because that was before we were known at all. So that was just a lot of writing, just pushing it to as many networks as possible. And I think, did I do one post? Because nice segue mentioning Rand, because we did a lot of guest posts at the beginning. And I'm trying to think when the first one, I did 3 for Moz over a course of several years that were massive for us in the beginning. I did it in lots of places, but a lot of online publications have a big process to jump through, right? You have to been published all these places before, you have to send all these things, go through these editorial guidelines. The great thing about Moz was they have the UMoz blog. Anyone can publish to it. If it's awesome, it gets put to the main blog and then it blows up. So I started putting massive content on there that was like hugely valuable, super generous. The first one was the 12-step landing page rehab program. So a fun theme, I don't know, but a bit of an edgy theme. Got a lot of attention, did really well, had a fake infographic, just a diagram. In speaking with Rand, he's like, come back, do another one. So I did the Noob Guide to Online Marketing, which was the biggest thing that ever appeared on the blog at that point. It was this 15 million pixel infographic, 15,000 words, and the community loved it. And that was a big part of our initial awareness because it was just like, hey, here's everything. Like it was a self-referential journey, like 0 to hero, like me becoming a marketer. Here's everything you need to do to be a digital marketer in one giant post. So yeah, it smashed all their records for the first few years on the Moz blog and gave us a lot of awareness that was, if we'd been selfish and put it on our own blog, it would have got, 50 shares. We put it on there, it gets 3,000 and like 150 comments and So it's about being smart, knowing your own size and scale and having at the time the guts to put that somewhere else and believe that it would have enough benefit to be worth it not living on our own blog.
Yeah. I mean, that 15,000 words, that's a huge investment of time and resources to hope that this other spot's going to be better. So did you have like your own call to actions and that kind of thing on there? Or there's just so much traffic to it that they wanted to come check you guys out?
Honestly, my content strategy always, at least, for the first X years was just pure generosity. There was no hard sell in there. It's like, I'm going to help teach you to be a better marketer. If you like that, if you want to come check me out, if you want to come check out Unbounce as a result of that, then that's awesome. The graphic that went with it, it was like a giant circular wheel as the top of it, and everything converged to the center. And there were lots of references to when you need landing pages to run good campaigns. So need to be that salesy then, because we didn't really have any competition. We were helping define the landing page category. So just by talking about it, people searching would come to us just naturally because, there wasn't an awful lot out there. I mean, people had written about it. We had a competitor, Ion Interactive, but they were more upscale. They're a bit more enterprise. So that was a friendly relationship. And we had one competitor that started at the exact same time as us. And we did way more content. We established ourselves from that perspective way better and faster than they did. And that was performable. They did a lot of stuff that was really cool. And their marketing was pretty good. They made one kind of mistake in the way they set up the platform. It had this markup language instead of just being a very visual editor. So that made it difficult for people to adopt. And eventually they pivoted and became an analytics company and got bought by HubSpot. But yeah, at the beginning, it was a lot. Like if you look at Google Trends and you search for landing pages, 2009, boom, that's when it all kind of really takes off, which is when I started writing about it. It's not the same now, though.
Okay, awesome. So you guys started writing content. I'm guessing that it was bringing some traffic to the site, but not like a ton, like you were saying. And then you started guest blogging to get more awareness, and you're using this ebook to build a list. So is that basically what got you to 1,200 people on the list at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, those guest posts, I think by the time we did some of those, we'd opened the gates up. So it wasn't like prior to that, the homepage was value prop and get an ebook. That was it. We moved beyond that. We had our legit homepage features, all that kind of stuff once we launched the product. So then we did a lot more marketing. That kind of ended that ebook's kind of life. We moved on to other things. So it wasn't impacted by all of those follow-on posts, really. I kind of pushed that aside as soon as we launched.
Okay, awesome. So you guys built this list of 1,200. You guys have been working on developing this product for like 6 months. And then, so you go out to this email list. Is that how you launch it? Did you guys make a special compelling offer or anything? What was that process like for you guys?
We did a beta of some sort. I think we must have done a private beta. We had a few people on. And then we pushed that list. There's not really any offer. It's more like, hey, we're here. We arrived. Come check this out. It's in a tattered state right now. Come and see what you think of it. But we were also then, and this is one of the lessons I think a lot of companies go through early, is that one of the things you naturally do is talk to your own network. People in the city you're in, the people you used to work with, the companies they're at. And of course they go, oh, that sounds good. I'd like that. And then you start having them down to your office to look at the product, and you watch them, you do some usability tests, or you just, get some feedback. And then they become the bully in the room because of this giant company. And they say, well, we need this, 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 this. And then you start building those things and you realize that's a terrible idea because you're building for one company who's never going to be happy. And you have to stop doing that immediately, ignore them, and go back to your roots and what you actually thought the benefit was and start building for that target audience. Instead of being flattered and then coerced into changing direction because of that vision of our first customer might give us this much money,
Okay.
Especially as a SaaS product, you can't go chasing a big check like, oh, they're going to give us 50 grand or something. No, we want $99 a month.
Okay, awesome. So I want to jump into this customer focus, but real quick for context, like when you guys launched, like how many customers did that bring on? Did you guys get to 100? Was it more than that?
I like emailing the list. I don't know. Probably very few. I just had to look back through our accounts, and our first customer, Graham McLaughlin, January 6, 2010. So that was pre-beta, I think. He was a local guy in Vancouver from BCAA, British Columbia Automobile Association. He's still with us, which is crazy. He was the first guy. But that was prior to actually having a pricing page, charging for it properly. And when we did that, we'd get one sign up a day. And that was really exciting.
Okay.
And then Rick came in one day and he's like, I had a dream last night. We got 6 customers. And that day we got 6 customers. So dare to dream. It never happened again after that. But.
Okay, awesome. So how did you guys get to your first 100 customers? And was it just slow organic growth, like this one customer at a time through your content marketing strategies?
To begin with, yeah. But then two things kind of lifted it. So actually, so the timeline's a bit off. So the noob guide post on Moz, there were two big things that worked for us. There was that from the awareness perspective. And then from a technical product perspective, we created, so we're a landing page platform at the time. So you're doing lead gen. You need somewhere to put the leads. So we did a technical integration with MailChimp because they were a company somewhat similar size to us, maybe a few X our size, hungry because they're new, willing to partner, do cool things. And that had a massive impact because we're solving a problem for their customers too. And that co-marketing on a technical integration level is huge, especially at the beginning.
So are you guys doing like these co-webinars together or like listed in the marketplace, or what do they do to help promote you guys?
I think we did one webinar and we did a collaborative ebook, just a simple, like a 10-pager about how to make the two tools work together and the why you do it, the benefits of that. And, obviously they talk to their list, their customers about, you could now do this, you send traffic from your email list to a landing page and then funnel them back through a forum back to you. Because there were lots of people, and still to this day, the MailChimp integration is the one with the highest number of integrations that have been set up between us and another platform. So it was a good choice at the time. But, those integrations are what start putting you down the path to being like a super sticky, useful tool.
Okay. So it sounds like, to summarize for some of these other people, not even necessarily in the software space, what worked for you guys was you had a good lead strategy. You guys were doing content marketing, guest blogging, and finding partners. So basically you're finding partners that already had traffic or similar customers to you and figured out ways you could collaborate or get in front of their existing audiences.
Yeah. And I think one of the smart ways that we did that on the integrations front was we got a wall and we put stickies all over the wall of all of the software. So we're SaaS, so all the software companies that we could integrate with. So email platforms, CRM, all the different kinds of things, like the Salesforce, Marketo, like every type of integration we could imagine. And then we used Alexa and compete.com and we just as a, finger in the air kind of thing. How do they compare to us? Just going by traffic as a signal of their size. We flagged them all 1x, 10x, 400x, 0.5x in terms of how they related to us. So then we chose companies that were slightly bigger than us. Because if you go for the big ones, they don't care about you. If they do say yes and allow you to do some kind of integration, you typically do all the work yourself, they're going to do nothing about it, even if you do all that work, because they don't care. But you have a smaller, hungry company, they're going to be more into the co-marketing. And also, we did that, but we also chose companies that had a culture fit. We wanted to work with companies that were cool and treated their customers the same way as we treat ours. So culture fit was important.
That's really smart. Okay, so how long did it take you guys to hit 7 figures?
July 2012 was when our annual recurring revenue broke $1 million. So just under 3 years for annual recurring. Then February 2016 was our first $1 million month. So monthly recurring. Okay.
So when you guys launched, like obviously you launched a product, you started getting some feedback, you started doing some of these partner programs. Like what were some of the plateaus or things that you guys had to overcome to be able to get to 7 figures 3 years later?
It was, for us around that time, especially from a marketing perspective, content marketing was still in its infancy. So it was easier to stand out. So it was just like, do lots and lots of that. Let's figure out different channels. Webinars were our biggest channel, 2012, 2013. That was a massive impact on our revenue just by doing awesome webinars. Now it's totally saturated and people don't show up anymore. But back then, and that's why you have to do these things, but you have to evolve. You have to keep evolving the type of content, the type of things you're doing, because everyone jumps on board and then they flood the market and then it's not effective anymore. We learned from our friends, partnerships like with Kissmetrics, some guys there we did webinars with, we learned some of their techniques. We passed other things forward. We taught other companies how to do great webinars, shooting ourselves in the face at the same time. But that was a really great time. And one of the things we did was at the end of the webinar, we would do a demo of the product. And a lot of people would stick around because we made the demo relevant to an aspect of what the content was that our guest was just talking about. If it's on mobile or something, we'd show the mobile part of the builder or something like that. So it was really relevant, and that got our product in front of a lot of people. And a lot of people, especially us, we're Canadian. We're apologetically unsalesy. So we did not shove our product in people's faces enough. You got to find the right way of doing it. I think we did the right way then because we weren't salesy. Now with a different competitive landscape, you have to do it a bit more, but you've got to find a way that's not offensive.
And so I saw that like with your webinars, you guys were driving like 3,000 signups. Maybe this is at your peak and then getting like 500 to stay on for the demo. Was this mainly just with like a partner where you guys would both promote to your email list, or how are you getting like that many people registering for it?
Yeah, we'd both promote. And in an unsophisticated landscape where we're all kind of just winging it, you'd be with a bigger partner and they'd drive more signups than you would, but you share them all. Now it's a bit more standard that the lead sharing between two partners is of equal level. Like if you produce 500, you get 500 of theirs. We did one with HubSpot back then, and we drove 600 signups. They drove 2,500. Quality of ours was way higher. So they got more benefit out of that at the time, just in that particular instance. That's not anything about HubSpot. That's just that particular instance. But yeah, it's more common now that it's a balanced thing. Like we just did Marketing Optimization Week, a lot of partners. We drove the majority of the leads. They kind of scaled from this all the way down to hardly any. So, you get what you work for, right? If in a partnership, and it's important to find the right partnership and the right thing. Don't just say yes to everything, because you have to believe in what they're doing, the content they're providing as part of this, so that you feel confident sending it to your list. Because at the beginning, it's not so bad, but the amount of people wanting to send stuff to your list when you do any kind of partnership is kind of crazy. And you have to pick really carefully so you're not hitting your list with things that they really don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone says, here's a tip, if you're entering into a co-marketing partnership and you're going to email your list about it, and they say, and it's common, no, we can't do that. I say it a lot, but we'll share it on social. Social does nothing. That kind of thing, absolutely nothing. It just doesn't compare to email. So don't ever barter email for social.
Yeah. We'll get back to the show in a minute, but first a quick thanks to our sponsor, Lead Quizzes. If you want to grow your business to 7 figures and beyond, you must learn how to generate leads predictably. When I first started my business, lead generation felt like riding a roller coaster. I would have huge sales months and then months with nothing. This happened because I relied solely on referrals and networking to grow my business. Predicting growth and investing in the future were frightening because I didn't have control over my lead generation. That was before we created Lead Quizzes. Now I predictably generate leads in my sleep and have stopped worrying about where the next sale will come from. Top marketers like Neil Patel and Lewis House have used Lead Quizzes to increase their lead capture by up to 500%. Think about it. Quizzes are fun, engaging, and you offer personalized feedback in exchange for your quiz taker's contact information. Lead Quizzes is a software that allows you to set up high-converting quizzes quickly without having to hire an expensive programmer. In fact, our users have generated over 3 million leads for their businesses. Take control of your lead generation today and start your 14-day free trial by going to leadquizzes.com/podcast. Awesome. All right. So there's some great tips there, I think. Were there any other like plateaus or like struggles that you guys felt like you had to overcome before hitting 7 figures in 2012?
I think a lot of it was money. We had this one moment where we couldn't afford the little salaries we were paying ourselves. So the decision was made that we needed to lose someone for a period of time, like one of the founders, because, and it's like product can't stop. Oh, we'll have to pause marketing. So I was actually going to be leaving the company. It's funny. I've talked about this 3 times now, maybe ever, because I blocked it out in my mind for years. Like seriously, it was like a trauma that I forgot that it had happened because it was at the time really traumatic that I have to leave the company. And it wasn't a case of like, you're not doing a good job. It's like, we only have this one option and we can't not build the product anymore. But then I don't remember the details, like I said, but I wrangled a way of like, no, if we do this, and we change that, we can still afford it and we can get through at this point. And we talked about, like, yeah, actually that makes sense. So I didn't leave, thankfully, but it was a scary moment in time because if I had, who knows how long it would have been for, and then we wouldn't have had this momentum of all the content and our marketing wouldn't exist. And honestly, our launch would have been a giant failure. So, that was one of the tougher things that happened, but important that we didn't actually go through with that.
That's huge, but it did sound like product was a huge focus for you guys, which I think is important for anyone listening, whether it's a software or you provide service or whatever, but really making sure you put a lot of attention into product, and because that's always going to be the best marketing, I think, for you.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way of, yeah. If you have a product, you have to build a product. There's no way around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So you guys got to 7 figures in 2012. Well, let's jump back into like the customer focus. So at what point did you guys feel like you really started figuring out how to build your product, or anyone listening, like the service? Like, how did you build that for the right person? What was that experience like? How did you guys get through that?
Yeah, there's two things. So there's the one I mentioned about, not falling prey to the shiny company at the beginning that you start designing for. Remember who you're designing for. But then we learned as we went that your pricing, like you need to also design an experience that communicates who you're not for.
Mm-hmm.
Because, once you start getting into your metrics, so churn, lifetime value, cost of acquiring a customer, all this kind of stuff, if you are attracting the wrong people, all of your metrics die. And it's not your fault, but they're, at that point. So you have to find ways of getting the ideal customer. And one of the simplest ways, well, for us, we want professional marketers with a budget, right? We want people who are doing paid advertising, use landing pages for paid advertising. So they have to have some kind of budget. So when we launched, we had a $10 a month plan, 25, 40, 50, and 100 or something. Maybe 50 was the top. And we were just getting people who, especially because it was an immature market where a lot of people didn't really know what a landing page was, we had people signing up because they wanted to create a website or because they just wanted to get online. And, we had this guy called Lamar. He's for like 70 or something. He wasn't a marketer. He didn't need a landing page, but he had an interest in marketing. He signed up for $10 or something, and he'd call almost every day. And he'd stay on the line for an hour with our CS folks. I think he was lonely. And, and it was lovely, but at the same time, very costly to us in terms of like support costs, but also because it was just someone who was not our target. So we removed that pricing plan. Things got better, more revenue, fewer customer service requests. Then a few years after that, we took away the $25, and then recently we took away the $49. So as your product or service develops and becomes more mature, you have to do things like that to drive it at the right people. And you'll get people complaining, but you're too expensive. I'm like, well, that's because you're not a target. And sorry, there are cheaper alternatives, but you have to kind of stand behind the value you're building. And that's really hard at the beginning because you're like, oh, we're too expensive. Let's make it really cheap. Let's get everyone in there. And yeah, that's great to inflate your vanity metrics at the beginning, get a lot of signups, then they all leave. So that's not very good.
Okay. So you guys like pick your target market of these marketers and agencies. Did you guys just intuitively know that you wanted people that were running advertisement, that's who you wanted to target? Or were you looking at like the customers that you had and who was having the most success?
Neither. At the beginning, we wanted every marketer. So, we did a lot of full stack content. So it was PPC, it was email, it was social, retargeting, every channel, basically. And conversion optimization and landing page optimization and copywriting, design, all these things, which were great to produce kind of a nice breadth and depth of content, but that wasn't focused on our ideal customer, which it took us years to figure out. The predictably good customer is someone who's paying to do advertising. Landing pages make the performance of that better. So we need those people. They may be doing everything else too, but they need that checkbox. So you don't get there until you look at somewhere like Kissmetrics, look at cohort analysis, look at who are the people who are sticking around, then doing the research. Who are they? What is it about them that makes them successful? And that comes from talking to them. It comes from looking at their landing pages. Like, what are they doing? Looking at the performance of them. So a lot of that is the manual digging into your own back end. I'd get one of the guys in the tech team to send me 3, 4, 5, 10,000 screenshots of landing pages our customers have been making. And I just flip through them, just one after the other, just garbage. Ooh, that's kind of cool. And I noticed kind of quickly that the companies doing really good marketing using our platform were often SaaS, because SaaS was typically ahead of the curve from a marketing perspective. And there are other industries that, higher education, they're a few years behind just because, like say government, they're probably like 50 years behind just because of the way those industries move and how slow they are. So we could see from some of those things who's doing a good job, both visually, design-wise, structurally, but also performance-wise, just looking at the conversion rate of the pages and stuff. So whatever the asset you have as a company, product, service, whatever it is, dig down into the raw data of looking at the data, whatever you can, because we weren't sophisticated then. We didn't have, now we have systems in there where we're tracking every kind of behavioral thing that happens inside the app. A lot of integrations with Google Tag Manager, all these kind of things for event tracking. We'd had none of that then. So I'd advise to go down that path quicker, sooner rather than later. Like if you're a marketer and you don't know what Google Tag Manager is, spend a week doing a deep dive into that. It'll change your life.
Okay, great. But in the beginning, definitely like a lot of manual work trying to figure out who that customer is.
Yes, 16 hours a day of just manual labor.
Okay. So you guys figured out like this was the right target. I'm curious, with content marketing being a huge thing for you and inbound marketing and having a little less control over who's finding you, how are you making sure that you were targeting the right people now?
Now, because we know more closely who the ideal is. But an important thing to know, and I did this big content experiment in January, and one of the big lessons from, I tried to write 30 posts in 30 days all about product marketing, product awareness, like try and get our product in front of people more. And I wrote 37,000 words. It was an insane experiment, but I learned that the hard way, or whatever, but your content, and some people know this, some don't, but your content typically in many situations is not going to convert. That's not its job. Its job is to build domain authority for your website so that when people are searching for the things you do, the service or the product you provide, they will find you because you will rank. It's not about, someone has to sign up from reading this blog post. They're not going to. Get over that. Realize, for us, 0.3%. That's heartbreaking. But then when you figure out what is actually going on, it's not bad. And you still have to keep doing it because you want to rank for those terms for the business side, the transactional side of what you actually offer.
Yeah, so building up the overall authority of your entire site. And I know Rand says the same thing. Like he says they get tons of traffic, but he says he doesn't do a great job with conversion. But, I'm sure like for those very profitable keywords that he's able to rank for because of it, they do a good job of converting those.
Yeah, totally. And because we now know we're focusing more on the content that our target needs, not so much of the complete full stack. But then again, maybe that's too narrow a focus because, like you said, agencies and marketing teams, that's our target. Well, the functional user may not be the buyer. There's all these different things, but also you might be on a team where you're hands-on building landing pages for certain kind of campaigns. You have someone else on the team that could also use it, but you don't talk or you don't share these tools or whatever. So it might be an email marketer who's reading content you put out. They're not going to use it, but their teammate needs it. So you still need to find ways of bridging that communications gap so that someone who might not actually be the functional user goes, hey, you should use this to the person sitting next to them. But, it's a constant battle to find the right content.
Okay. Awesome. I got some quick fire questions at the end, but before we get there, so we got to your $1 million. You guys are at 17 million now. Do you want to share just maybe a couple of the hurdles that you guys had to get past to keep taking things to the next level?
Scaling is definitely the hardest thing because when you get to a certain size, let's say 50 people, ego starts to kick in. Every hire you make, you're a bigger company. I know I love telling my parents how many people we had in the company, and you can get carried away with that. I'm not saying we did, but I'm just saying relentless focus on growth can sometimes be a problem. And Rand, we've been friends for a while, and he warned us when you get 75 to 125, that's the worst part. You will get all these employees and you'll start doing less work than you were doing before. And then it's costing you way more money for not being effective. And we went through the same problem. It's incredibly hard to scale at that point unless you have the right kind of management in place to handle it for you. And when you're new, we didn't know anything about how to scale that kind of stuff. So I would definitely watch out for when you start growing, be careful on the hiring side.
Okay. So, you brought up there, getting feedback from other people. I've heard you talk about this around getting advisors. How did you guys go about doing that?
We reached out to 5 people right at the beginning to have like a small advisory board. So it was Rand, it was Chris Garrett from Wider Funnel, Dan Martell, Eric Rees, David Hauser, just so we could, throw ideas at them and get a bit of a gut check because they had more experience than us. But it's interesting. 4 of them put $5,000 in as a token kind of gesture. Rand put nothing in. But Rand, on a scale of 1 to 100, he's been 100 helpful. The rest, this is not a dig at them, but they've been 5 or 1, I don't know if there's a correlation between not putting money in, but it definitely helps. And there was value. They all brought value in some way, but it is a good thing to do at the beginning because someone who's 2 years ahead of you can tell you a lot of stuff that you shouldn't do.
Yeah, well, I think maybe Rand's just a special breed, so maybe that's why you got so much out of him. So I think it's interesting though, like you got these 5 advisors, like for someone that's starting their business or they're at a spot where they're feeling like they need more advisement, how do you recommend setting that up? Is that something where they should be investors in your company or you should pay them or give them equity? Or maybe it's just a volunteer thing. What would you recommend?
For us, it was definitely volunteer. I mean, having someone as a paid advisor, that's next level. That's kind of at our size. Like if we want to have a board member, say, that's a paid board member because they're going to be active and really give us working advice. Yeah, that's kind of pretty far down the road. I think you just got to establish relationships with people you respect, who are in a similar kind of field. Because everybody who goes through this entrepreneurial journey, they want to help the next person out. So it's just about that, finding that right person, and you just got to ask. Ask in the right way, though.
How did you ask, Ali?
I think it was Rick that did it, actually. I don't think I was part of that back then. It's funny how your memory fails.
Yeah.
I wish we'd had a video crew from day one, just like recording everything.
Like The Office.
Yeah, totally. Rick just established a relationship with Rand because we're Vancouver, they're Seattle. They were a couple of years ahead of us, same kind of business model. So that kicked that off. So that was just about finding mutual kind of shared experience. But you have to actively want to give back to that person too. You can't just be sucking benefit from them the whole time. And it's hard because sometimes you think, they know everything, I don't know anything. But you have to find a way at some point to try and pay that kind of thing back.
Yeah. And so did you guys structure like a quarterly thing with them, or it was just like as needed?
Just ad hoc.
Yeah.
We'd fire an email whenever we kind of had a basic question. And with Rand, we'd have dinners. Like we'd go down to Seattle, a few of us, and we'd have a dinner with them and the crew. We'd have him and Geraldine up and we'd have dinner. So we were building the social side of it at the same time, It's like trying to get to know people. So it wasn't just business. And then when we grew a little bit, I think we had like, say, 20 people, maybe 40. We went down to Seattle. We took 15 people and then we had dinner with the exact same 15 people at Moz. Went out, everybody's kind of sharing their collective experiences back and forth. And that was a great exercise. So aligning yourself with a company you share values with is great because then you can align those people with and have that mutual kind of shared benefit. I know Ryan, our director of product marketing, VP of, he reached out to April Dunford recently because we're working on some positioning stuff and that's what she's amazing at. And she was just like, yeah, I'm happy to help. And he got this great advice from a wonderfully talented person. And so sometimes it's just asking.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, Ali, most businesses go through this. Was there a time that you thought your business was going to fail? And if so, like, what did you guys do?
No. Not for a second. The only really bad thing was that time when I almost had to step away. But honestly, I'm sure we could have done stuff better. But I don't think we did anything majorly wrong. So, I don't have any regrets for most of it. Can't think of any, certainly. I wish I had a better answer for that, but really.
No worries. Okay. Ali, what's the one thing that you guys did that you think had the biggest impact on your growth?
It was really having a decent mix. So from a marketing perspective, you should mix your marketing kind of 50-50 lead gen and awareness. You shouldn't just do only lead gen and you shouldn't just do only awareness. You want to have a lot of free ungated content in lots of places for the awareness side, then do lead gen to kind of build your list. From the product side or service, whatever it is, the other things your customers are going to use, partner with the right people so that you're building in the right direction to help your customers scale. Your customers can't scale unless they have tools that work together or services that are complementary. So I think those two things, the right technical side of things on product, but then the two aspects of marketing, lead gen and awareness.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's great advice. A lot of times you write like this amazing piece of content. You're like, should I charge for this? Should I put it behind a lead capture? But
yeah,
Yeah, it's good advice. Okay, a couple more quick questions. Like if you could go back in time and start over, what would you tell yourself, Ollie?
Find sugar mama at the start so that I didn't have to take a salary, because we started with the same equity, but mine got diluted. Three of us did. So at this point in time, I have less than some of the other founders, which sucks. At the time, it was necessary. You can't get around that.
Mm-hmm.
But just being aware that the small dollar changes at the beginning become big ones at the end. So do whatever you can to not dilute yourself, whether it's through investment or through, in that case, taking a salary.
Cool. Well, Ollie, besides like unbounce.com, like where can people learn more about you and find what you guys are doing?
That's the best place. But for me personally, Ollie Gardner on Twitter is kind of where I live. Yeah, I think just those two places are good. Or if someone wants to reach out, you can email me, ollie@unbounce.com. I'm totally open. Don't hide the email address.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for jumping on and sharing like everything you've learned. I really appreciate it, Ollie.
My pleasure, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks again for listening to our show this week. If you want to find out more about Ollie Gardner and the lessons he shared today or read our show notes, visit leadquizzes.com/14. If you'd like to start generating more leads for your business and get a free trial of Lead Quizzes, go to leadquizzes.com/podcast. Next week, I'll be interviewing Samantha Meese on how she grew MistoBox, a coffee subscription business, to $2.7 million in revenue. Please subscribe to our show so you don't miss this next episode. I'm Jeremy Ellens, and you've been listening to Journey to Seven Figures.